Hi, welcome back to Mind Matters, a moment for the mind. Today we are going to talk about a little bit of basic brain science using what Dan Siegel and others call the hand model of the brain. So this is a great way to just kind of give yourself the chance to reflect on what may be happening when you're feeling super overwhelmed and super stressed out or reacting to situations instead of feeling like you're thinking through them. Essentially what I want you to do is just take your hand and tuck your thumb into this section right here and then make a fist over your thumb, okay? And then we're going to use this to represent our brain. So if we look at this and we think about the back part of our brain as this part right here, this part of the brain is the brain stem. It is the part of the brain that is responsible for like really basic functions like reacting to situations, breathing, heart rate, reacting when we're in danger, okay? And then if you open up your hand and moving on up into the middle part of your brain, you find here things like the amygdala, the hippocampus, where emotions are stored, really strong emotions, anger, anxiety, things like that. And then if you fold your hand over, this part of the brain is this part right here. It's the prefrontal cortex, it's the thinking part of the brain. This part of the brain is also one of the last to fully develop, which makes sense, you know. So when we get really upset and find ourselves reacting in a very outrageous way, it's those times that you think like, wow, I thought about something after I'd already reacted to it. What is generally happening is that all of the energy and concentration in our brain at that moment is in the brain stem and this emotional center right here, okay? And so this is a survival instinct, and we actually want this to be around because this is what helps us if, say, we're walking along a trail and we see a rattlesnake. That survival instinct is going to get us to react to it as opposed to sit there and think about, I wonder what I should do with this rattlesnake. You know, we're going to step back, we're going to step away, we're going to get away from it. You know, what happens and where we find ourselves struggling is that a lot of the things that we see in this world that cause really high anxiety and emotion in us are not necessarily life-threatening things. So it may be just getting upset with a loved one, or it may be, you know, not knowing how you're going to get your bills paid and feeling a lot of stress and anxiety around that. And then one more thing happens and it's just boom. We call it flipping our lid in our family, but it's where the prefrontal cortex and the thinking part of the brain disengages because all of this energy is down here in the emotional part of the brain and the brain stem. And next thing you know, we're reacting and yelling and screaming and doing all of these things that we come back after we calm down later, we're like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Well, the problem is you weren't thinking because that thinking part of the brain had disengaged. You know, you were just reacting. And so I share this with you because a lot of times if we can learn to check in with where we are in our stress level and check in with what's going on around us at the time, we can gain a little bit more insight of like, okay, wait, am I starting to feel all this energy around my feelings area, you know, and what do I need to do to keep my lid engaged and to keep everything feeling like I'm moving from a thinking place, you know? How can I react to this situation from a place where I'm thinking through it rather than just reacting to what is going on in my mind? So we have all flipped our lids, every single one of us, okay? We have all had moments, both times that we really needed to just react and times when we probably reacted and then thought second and wished we hadn't done this, right? So as we move through Mind Matters, a moment in the mind, we're going to talk about some things that help to just keep this thinking part of the brain engaged as we're dealing with overwhelming and stressful situations. One of the things that I also want people to know and understand is that when we've gone through really hard traumatic events, particularly childhood traumatic events, this part of the brain it's generally easy for us to say flip our lid because there's already so much reaction in this lower section of the brain. And that's because a lot of what we may have been going through was because we needed to stay in survival mode. And so to just have that understanding and that patience for yourself, that if you did go through a lot of really hard things as a child, or really a lot of traumas, as a child, or even moving into your adult life, that having this amount of reaction in this space is normal, and that we'll just do some work with trying to understand where it's coming from and trying to keep that lid engaged even through times when you are safe and you just need you need to be able to think through things rather than react to them. I am so glad that you have joined in for this week of Mind Matters, a Moment in the Mind. Over the next few sessions or weeks, what we're going to do is talk about basic strategies that we can use to keep this part of the brain engaged when we need it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, and I wish you well.